Welcome to the Ocean Race Summit Stockholm, and we are racing to protect the Southern Ocean. My name is Danni Washington. I will be your host for today. I'm so excited to be here. I'm a television producer from Miami, Florida, sunny Miami. While preparing for this summit, I read the former Prime Minister of Sweden, Olof Palme's statement, which he made on June 6, 1972. What he said is, in the field of the environment, the case is in some important respects more simple. The air we breathe is not the property of any one nation. We share it. The biggest oceans are not divided by national frontiers. They are common property. What is asked of us is not to relinquish our national sovereignty, but to use it to further the common good. I love that quote, and I hope that those words will resonate with you throughout the summit tonight. So we have an exciting lineup of speakers who are all here to discuss all things Antarctic, also marine protected areas in the Southern Ocean, offshore racing, relationships, values, and also how we can recognize and honor the inherent rights of the ocean that will help us drive the change that we need to protect and restore 70% of our ocean planet. The Southern Ocean is at the heart of our summit, but it's also the key influence to maintaining the vital, complex system that sustains all life. This year is a crucial opportunity for us to recognize oceans' rights through one of the most significant acts of ocean protection in history: large-scale marine protected areas in the Southern Ocean. However, the protection of the Southern Ocean has been stalled for years, and the present geopolitical situation is not making that any easier. So, this is why the Ocean Race and the Antarctic Southern Ocean Coalition call for immediate agreement of the 3 proposed MPAs in Antarctica. Now I'm delighted to introduce you to 2 ocean advocates who have close ties with the Southern Ocean and Antarctica in very different ways, but they have the same mission: to protect this vital complex system that sustains all life on Earth. And they are collaborating on this event today to raise the voice of the ocean and the importance of Antarctica here in Stockholm, ahead of Stockholm Plus 50, So please welcome Andrea Kavanagh, Director of Pew Bertorelli Ocean Legacy's Southern Ocean Campaign, and Richard Brisius, the Chairman of the Ocean Race. Please join me, have a seat. Welcome, welcome. All right, the honor of doing the first panel of the summit. Yes, no pressure. So, Richard, I'd love to start with you. If you could talk about, this is a round-the-world sailing race, the Ocean Race. It's often dubbed the toughest test of teamwork, but it's racing with a purpose. Can you give us a little bit more context about, how the Ocean Race is so much more than just a global sporting event?
Yes, thank you. Thanks a lot, Danny, and thanks for being here, and thanks, Andrea, for being here. It's an outstanding day. And we in Stockholm, we often say that Stockholm is built on water, but we should remember Stockholm is built on the ocean, and there is one ocean, and we might think that we are not connected to the rest of the world, but everything's connected when it comes to the ocean. And the climate matter, the biodiversity, and pollution is all interconnected. And when I then think about this as a sailor, this event, and I sailed with Gurra Krantz here or against each other actually, but we have raced together a lot. So I remember more of that part, and we have other great people here as well. But one thing you do apart from the team bond is you get a very special relationship with the ocean. You become a friend with the ocean. You respect the ocean. You care for the ocean. And as a sport, we really like fair play, because without fair play, without rules, there can never be sport. And the reality is that the high seas, which is where we sail and race, there is no fair play. There is no fair play for the ocean. So therefore, we are driving, for more insight into giving the ocean rights, to acknowledge that the ocean is not for us to take from. The ocean is there for us to look after and care for and do our best. Because we all came from the ocean, and the ocean will take us over one day, I'm sure. So we should do our best to be a good stewards of the ocean, and that's what we are driving for. So we have created this concept, which we call a Universal Declaration of Ocean Rights, which how it will formulate itself, where it will go, we'll see. But this is the basis of this work we are doing now.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I'm very excited about the journey toward that Universal Declaration of Ocean Rights. We've got a long road ahead of us, but together we'll be able to do it. So I'm looking forward to that. Andrea, thank you very much for being here, and welcome. We want to hear a little bit more about Pugh Bertorelli's work with ASOC and also where you feel we are currently since the culmination of the Antarctic Treaty back in 1959.
The Southern Ocean itself is just incredible, right? It's surrounding a continent that's the highest, driest, windiest, coldest place on Earth. And the ocean itself is this giant circumpolar current that distributes nutrients all around the world, and it acts like, it brings cold currents all around the world too, so it regulates the climate. And I think that one of the things that I really appreciate too is the exceptionalism of the Antarctic Treaty system. It's really different. It was the first anti-nuclear disarmament treaty post-World War II. And it was the first treaty of countries getting together to dedicate an entire continent and area to peace and science. And so it's really different. And the thing that's really cool also about the Antarctic Treaty is that it has evolved. It's managed to evolve over the years to meet lots of the challenges in the ocean. For example, in the 1980s, when the Soviet Union decided to go down to the Southern Ocean and start fishing for krill, the Antarctic Treaty System thought, oh, well, we need a way to regulate fishing because we don't regulate fishing, so they created the Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources. And that's actually how CAMLR started, and CAMLR is the body that now regulates all fishing in the Southern Ocean, as well as the body that has said that they will create a network of marine protected areas. They made that promise in 2009 to put a representative network all around the continent, and they said they would have it in place by 2012. Unfortunately, we only have 2, so we've got a ways to go. It's been fantastic that so far the treaty system and has been able to evolve to meet these challenges, but right now we're at a point where it can't, because the challenge is climate change, and there is nothing that anyone sitting at a table at an Antarctic Treaty meeting or at a CAMLR meeting can do to agree to stop this outward threat. But you have to look at the people who are sitting at the table, and they are all countries who are, all of them the largest emitters of greenhouse gases on the planet. So it's going to take looking to other bodies to now start to help to protect the Southern Ocean and to protect Antarctica from this threat of climate change.
Excellent. No, thank you for that history of the treaty. I think that's really valuable information to know, because if you know your history, then you can figure out what you want to do in the future, right? And to give us a little bit more context and a little bit of a deeper insight into the work of Pugh Bertorelli, they provided a video for us to watch, and it's talking about the tipping point when it comes to Antarctica and climate change.
A tipping point is something that happens to the climate system that's irreversible on human timeframes. Can't get back to the old climate state, not for potentially millennia. The one that matters for Antarctica is essentially the point at which the ice shelves are all gone. And that will cause very rapid sea level rise above the levels of the current projections. So the Antarctic ice sheet itself sits on continental bedrock. But the ice essentially flows from a high point to a low point, then it hits the ocean, and so it flows onto the ocean, it floats on the ocean, and we call that the ice shelf. There are ice shelves all around the coast of Antarctica, and what these ice shelves do is they hold back the ice flowing off the continent. Unfortunately, these ice shelves are all melting, they're all thinning because the ocean is warming, and in some places around West Antarctica it's warming a lot. The Larsen ice shelf, for example, the size of England, and it essentially disintegrated in a couple of months. Then what happened? The glaciers feeding the Larsen ice shelf sped up 10 times. So we're seeing that happen all around Antarctica, and once they go, then there's nothing to stop the rest of the ice sheet just sliding into the ocean. Now there's another instability. So West Antarctica essentially sits in a big bowl 2 kilometres below sea level. So that warm ocean nibbles away at the edges and gets into the soft underbelly. The edges of the ice sheet start to lose the grip on the side of the bowl, and so what happens is it's like a bunch of dominoes falling over. These ice cliffs just topple. And we've seen that in Jakobshavn Glacier up in Greenland. You know, it's an incredible thing to watch. These immense ice cliffs, 30 kilometres long, just boom. And if that really plays out at large scale around Antarctica, we're grossly underestimating the amount of sea level rise from Antarctica. The latest generation of ice sheet computer models are incorporating these instabilities predict up to 2 metres of sea level rise a century, unless we aggressively reduce our emissions. People feel it's a hopeless situation, and it's not a hopeless situation. In fact, the science tells us we still have a chance to solve this problem, get on top of it anyway, and avoid the worst. Just in the last few years, we were seeing a sea change in the world. It requires a global response, both in terms of how we save the climate and in terms of how we save ourselves.
It's such a powerful message from Professor Nash. It gives me goosebumps every time I watch that. I think the one thing that really stands out for me in that video is that geologic timescale graph. It reminds me of the fact that, you know, us human beings, we've been here for but just a blip of time in geologic history, and yet we've made such a heavy impact on the planet and the climate. And it's a reality check, right? And it's humbling, to say the least. But Andrea, you know, going back to meetings and how us humans are talking about the importance of Antarctica and protecting it, you just came back from a very important meeting in Berlin, the Antarctic Treaty consultation meeting. What did you hear there that gives you personally some hope and maybe a little bit of encouragement, and maybe some of the things that are a little bit scary?
You know, for the most part, I think when in the Antarctic Treaty meetings and the CAMLR meetings, you have most of the members who are there who are working constructively to try to solve the problems. And they're working in the full spirit of multilateralism. They're trying to achieve consensus through compromise. And then you have a few outliers who actually, instead of using, working towards true consensus, they actually use their position as veto power just to say no. And unfortunately, we saw a terrible example of that this week when one country, the UK, actually put together a huge proposal on emperor penguins to have them as a specially protected species in Antarctica. It was hundreds of pages of the best available science. And all members were in favor of it, thought it was a good idea because emperor penguins are predicted to be extinct by the year 2100. So they thought this was an important thing to act on, a way of showing some progress on climate change. But it was blocked by one member country whose counter proposal was based in part, I'm not kidding, on a blog about polar bears. So, it was very baffling to see how, all this science could be countered by something like that.
Thank you for that, Andrea. So, Richard, going back to you, it's great to see that the race is bringing the summit here on the eve of Stockholm Plus 50, a very important meeting starting tomorrow as well as Friday. Have you personally experienced Antarctica? And the race itself has a connection to the Southern Ocean because of the route, but what's one of the reasons you want to have this event on this evening here in Stockholm?
When I did the Whitbread race for the first time 30 years ago, then there were no ice limits. You could go as far south as you want, as you dared. So effectively you sailed around the icebergs to shortcut around Antarctica. I realized I'd never been in such a wilderness, because even wherever I go, it's hard to find wilderness on this planet nowadays. So just because of that, it felt like let's protect this as much as we can. And I think, as you say, the treaty is a good thing. But now we know the way the world is working, everyone puts more pressure on it, and maybe we can do that, maybe we can do that. So no, let's not touch this. Let's not touch it and do what we can to preserve it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So please join me in thanking Richard and Andrea for joining us today.
Thank you, Danni.
Thank you. Great. And Richard, you're going to hang out here with us. We're going to move on. But first, before we move on to the next session, we're going to watch a quick video about Relay for Nature.
There cannot be a healthy planet without a healthy ocean. Relay for Nature, the concept was to bring all these together, the biodiversity loss, climate change, the declining oceans health, and these conferences happening around the world. The Relay for Nature movement is really to bring the synchronicity together and make people realize this is all one thing and we're all in this together.
So I have the great honor to welcome on stage someone who has cared a lot for the ocean, who is one of Sweden's greatest sailors, Vilma Bobeck. You asked me, you won the Magnus Olsson scholarship a few years ago, and that's when I got to know you. And then you asked, I really care for the ocean. What can we do? What can I do? So you joined us to Marseille when we went there, and you brought this baton to the president of the IUCN World Congress in Marseille.
Yes.
How was that?
Incredible. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the presentations. Hello, everyone. As a full-time sailor, the ocean is our playground. So it is the most vital thing for us to be able to perform what we do every day, which also means that the ocean's health is on top of our list of importance. And why this is such a big heart question for me personally. And this powerful, beautiful thing, containing so much history and so much messages and handed out from all over the world. I got to be a part of delivering this to the conference in Marseille in September, and being a part of that and witnessing and seeing the power of this firsthand, which was really cool. And now I got the opportunity again to being able to deliver this further and sailing it into the city of Stockholm, the heart of my hometown, and bringing it home and delivering it to our mayor, who will be bringing it further to the Stockholm 50+ conference, which is really cool. So yeah, I'm just happy that this is actually being spoken of and being taken so seriously as it is, and as me as a sailor can see on a first-hand basis every day when I do what I do every day. So yeah.
These success stories from different sectors of society are reminders of the great things that we can achieve when we cooperate together and we show interconnectivity and it's prioritized.